Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Martin. I am part of the UP Center for Executive Education team. Thank you all for joining. While a few more people start joining us, I'm going to start introducing myself. Like I said, my name is Anthony Martin. I am the Marketing and Program Specialist for the UP's Center for Executive Education. And joining us today, we have our wonderful presenter, Anastasia Dieva, who will be explaining a bit more about the situation in Ukraine and how her organization has been able to really be that transformational organization on the ground for the people of Ukraine. So we're going to wait just another minute or so for these last people to finish joining the session. And then I'm going to start with a very brief introduction on what the UPeace is and what the Center for Executive Education is as well. And before we actually start with that, just thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us for this webinar. That is part of our series of leadership webinars as well, that are a series of free online course webinars for the general public to learn more about topics that are really important for us as UPeace, but for us as a society as well. So to get started, what is the University for Peace? The University for Peace was established in December 1980 by the United Nations General Assembly. This was with the idea that peace is something that cannot just be, it's not spontaneous, it's something that we have to learn about, it's something that we have to teach. And therefore they decided to open the campus here in Costa Rica with this idea of really teaching people about the power of sustainability, responsibility, and peace to transform realities. And then additionally, in 2007, a small team of people said, this is great. We have, these master diplomas for people to really hone in on these important areas. But there are people who might not be able to dedicate a few years of their life to come to Costa Rica for a master's degree. And therefore they developed the Center for Executive Education, which provides different types of shorter programs, mainly focused on these areas of positive leadership, innovation, social impact, and entrepreneurship. We have a few different formats, which are our open enrollment programs, which are a lot shorter, a few weeks at a time, to really hone in on a few specific skills. We have larger diploma programs on global leadership and also social innovation, and then specialized trainings on a corporate or smaller level, and then study abroad programs as well. And just to let you know, if you have any questions about what we do at the center, you can contact us on social media platforms, but also you can email us at center@upeace.org.
Where should I put this?
And with that very short introduction out of the way, once again,
I'm watching a webinar on
Anastasia.
my next grant is going to be
And just allow me one moment to exit out of this.
Ukrainian refugees. You're not muted.
And then Anastasia, the floor is yours. If at any point anyone has any questions, we will have a Q&A session at the end as well. And I will be muting everyone at the moment just so we don't have any audio interruptions as well. But once again, if you have any questions, you can feel free to raise your hand or to let us know in the chat box. And with that, Anastasia, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Do you see my presentation now? For your time, and it's a big honor to be here. I did my UPeace Regenerative Leadership course 2 years ago. So it's a very familiar community to me of like-minded people, and I really appreciate that you found time to join our conversation about our story, the story of my organization, the story of one of the organization which is now standing on the fight for democracy, on the fight for human lives, on the fight against the evil. And I really want to share the story of 100% Life in terms of my perspective as a senior manager, of lessons learned and also observations, some I would say insights maybe they will be very obvious for you, because I do believe that you are the leaders from around the world and you face many challenges among your communities, and maybe something will be very appealing, maybe something will be resembling. Please let me know what you think about it. I will try, as we have a limit of time, I will try to put it brief, make it practical, and then in the end I will be very glad to talk about this more in details and answer your questions. So my name is Anastasia Deva, and I'm Executive Director of the organization, which is called 100% Life. Our organization previously was called as the All-Ukrainian Network of People Living with HIV, as this is a very real grassroots, community-based and passion-based organization that was created in 2001. In 2001, there were no antiretroviral therapy for HIV-positive people in Ukraine yet, and our organization consisted of 5 activists, of people living with HIV, and who every day heard that they don't have the future, they don't have tomorrow, they will die. They gathered together to show how you can persistently fight for your own life and for your life, or for the life of your community, to show the access to medical and social treatment, to bring this therapy, lively therapy to your country, and to start a new page, I would say, of the national activism. So basically now our organization is one of the largest nonprofit organizations, not only in Ukraine, but also in the region of Eastern Europe and also Central Asia. Annually, we provide the services for more than 300,000 people all around the country. And I'm speaking about it because I really want you to understand what we were before the war. This is our story for 21 years. This is how we developed the capacity. We brought many programs here. We helped the most vulnerable groups, and not only vulnerable to HIV, but to stigma and discrimination. And we developed advocacy programs. We advocated for the changes on the legal framework of our country. We became the national partner for the reform of health sector in the whole country. And we introduced also the list of digital innovations, which are now the part of governmental portfolio. But that was the story before the war. Now, this is our reality. On 24th of February, and I should say a little bit of personal note that I'm a mama to now 17 months year baby. At that time, he was only 9 months when we woke up because we heard that someone was calling at 4 a.m. I checked my phone and I saw that only few words. It started. I was absolutely petrified and frozen inside of me because I understood that it's very dark. It's 24th of February. I'm alone with my kid in the downtown of the city, and I understood that the full-scale invasion started. At this moment, I heard the explosions, and I understood that we don't have even a minute to stay at home. We need to pack our baggage and we need to leave. So in an hour, I remember myself driving to the border with Poland, but unfortunately the traffic was so heavy that I was almost desperately sitting with the baby and realizing that we won't make it, that we will either stop and stuck in the middle of, like in the middle of the road, or consider to go back to Kiev and stay in Kiev for some time. In this moment, I was thinking of how to protect my family, how to protect the most important thing I have in my life. But the second thought was also how to protect all of my team. So immediately on 24th, we had a call with all of my team members because we have a big team. Only in Kiev, we have more than 100 employees. And we conducted a senior management meeting where we discussed what we're going to do. It was saying that actually before the war, 2 weeks in advance, we were conducting some of the, like preparational webinars for our employees to explain what they should do and how they should evacuate themselves and also all of the materials from the offices if the war started. At that time, no one really considered seriously, like if it happens or not. We just wanted to be prepared. We just wanted to make a plan how to act in terms of emergency. And unfortunately, we had to follow that plan later on. So basically what we started to do is for the first day, the evacuation of all of our employees, because as you all know, who works with teams or who are leading teams, employees are the most valid, the most important, the biggest actually asset that you have. So we evacuated people, we helped with the evacuation of the families, we helped to evacuate all of the materials and servers that we had in the office in the downtown of this Kiev, because we understood that it's not only about our lives, but it's also about the lives of our patients. And here it comes the moment of the drastic change in the paradigm that you had before the war and that we are having now for, let's say, almost 9 months of this war. And here I want to ask you, what do you think? What is the common between Joker and Winnie the Pooh? Does anyone have any ideas? You can just voice it out. No? Ladies and gentlemen, let's broaden our mind. There was the very famous quote of Joker, even though he was anti-hero, but he was appealing to people to actually think out of box. And if you do remember about Winnie the Pooh, there was a dialogue between him and Piglet, where he was desperately trying to understand what is needed to become a butterfly. And Piglet was saying, you need to want to fly so much that you need to terminate to become a caterpillar. And Winnie the Pooh asked, does it mean die? Piglet said, yes and no. It's not, I mean, it depends on the point of view which you said. At one point it may appear that you die, but you will actually be living on, but in a different type of transformation. And that's actually what happened to all of us. We transformed. And after the war began, we all were guided by the very important principle of the head of coordination council of Dmytro Sherembey, who is a well-known international activist and advocate for human rights and for the rights of the most vulnerable people. When he asked us the question on one of the strategic sessions about the mission of what we do actually, he asked us, if your kid is sick, what will stop you? Will you stop because there's no doctors or the doctors don't answer you? Will you stop because it is a night and no one answers your phone? Will you stop because there's no medicine in the pharmacies in your city? What will stop you? And the answer is obvious for each and every parent. Nothing will stop you before you find the solution. So this main principle actually guided us into the new paradigm, into the new reality of our foundation, of all of our team, and also for delivering and continuation of the mission of all of our, for all of our communities and passion. So basically, starting from 24th of February, we transformed and accepted the new realities of Marshall.
I'm listening to like a webinar.
So we adopted all of our projects and programs to the new realities. We decided to make a very comprehensive and a holistic approach. We not only continued the programs, but we decided to work 200% to deploy all of our capacity around Ukraine to deliver even more, to deliver not only service provision for HIV positive, TB and hepatitis C treatments, but also to deliver the most necessary for those who are affected by the war. We developed the assistance of the evacuations, food and protection. We developed the humanitarian aid, and in one day, it happened actually in one day. We understood that we are not an HIV service provider anymore. We're actually a full-scale humanitarian aid provider. And that's our new goal, that we need to take care of the new vulnerable groups who are in Ukraine. And it was saying that, again, almost in one day, because of the war, because of the aggression, because of this genocide from Russians to Ukrainians, we understood that our circle of vulnerable groups are much, much broader than it was before. Now we have so many refugees, internally displaced people, people who were affected by the war, who appeared without their housing, or who lost their loved ones, or orphans who lost their parents, and many, many more. Patients who actually were left without any support of medical support or social support, psychological support. Our goal in our organization is to protect the lives of our clients, and this is the moral basis that is understood by everyone in the team, subconsciously determining all of the actions of the team. And it is important that this mission and values and goals of the organization are transmitted and exercised by top management on a daily basis, shown in day-to-day operation, and not revitalized only during the crisis. So now I want to share some of the lessons that I learned from the beginning of the war, and which I think helped us to not only adapt to the new reality of war, but also to make our activities as effective as possible, to convey our mission, to scale it up from fight for life of our people from vulnerable groups to fight for Ukraine and do whatever we can. So the first lesson I want to share is about proactivity and adaptive leadership. And actually, when I was a participant of Regenerative Leadership course, we were taught that when you're a leader, when you're a senior leader in your organization, you always need to leave your agos and logos behind the door, enter the room, and do what works for everyone. And I totally share this because I do believe that the leader is not someone who is sitting on the highest chair, but the leader is the one who is actually serves for everyone in his or her organization. And when we speak about adaptive leadership, we can apply the terminology which is used in Harvard Kennedy School, which means that adaptive leadership, meaning that you are able to make bold and sometimes unpopular decision based on your own intuition, creative thinking, expertise, skill set, and your will to make the change and take the responsibility on yourself, even when no one in the room, no one in the community, no one in the country have actually the expertise to do so. Because something that happened, the crisis, for instance, is very unusual, and there is no case study before, right? So you need to be innovative in this sense. Another trait is, of course, proactivity, because proactivity, and also I really relate to what Viktor Frankl wrote in his famous work in Search for Meaning, when he was actually the survivor from concentration camp, survival of the World War II, and he explained the proactive person takes responsibility for his and her life rather than look for causes in outside circumstance or other people. And it's very true, because you don't have too much time to operate when there is humanitarian crisis outside, when there is war. And especially when you're in the management of organization, you do understand that, yes, first of all, you need to take care of the life of your beloved ones and your family. But you also, now your family is not only the small circle, but it's also all of your team, all of your employees, and even more, it's all of your patients and clients who receive the service provision from you. So proactivity and being able, ability to accept the risks and make an unpopular decisions is something that that you won't actually learn in any school, in any university, something that can be taught in the very real-time situations. And it's also a very interesting, I would say, examination of yourself as a leader, how you feel in the moment of crisis, how you feel in the moment of threat, how you feel in the moment when there is a life-death question actually in front of you. So this first lesson is also, I consider, following with a very important part, which is very often underestimated, is intuition. Because when you have this internal compass, which is based on your values, on compassion, on some previous experiences and expertise, you, as I think, should also very carefully rethink what it says and what you can actually propose to your senior management team and how you will move forward. Of course, another lesson, and I think it's also one of the top priority of what should be done is your team. It's the protection of your team, investment in your team, development and improvement of capacity of your team, and actually in the times of crisis, use the best of your teams, rely on it. It doesn't happen only, why I actually spoke about day-to-day operations and transmitting the values by yourself and showing it to the team, being the role model to the team, because you cannot develop the loyalty to your mission or vision of your organization in one day. It will never develop if you start to speak about your mission or appeal that you have to support the mission of your organization. Don't run away, keep united when the crisis is actually on the ground. You have to start to work on this from the very beginning, from the moment when you actually hire a person to join your team, when you actually invite the new members to your organization, if it's a community-based organization, for instance, or membership. And this mission can be developed also with the dual respect. The person is respecting what the organization is doing, is sharing the values, but also you respect the person, his and her skill set, his and her ideas. You always give an opportunity for this person to burgeoning, to open up, to come up with the ideas. You never shut it down. I know it sounds banal, but you know this principle of leadership, that actually leader don't create new followers, leader create leaders. So in this situation, in our organization, we understood that our team is excellent, that our team is able and capable to work autonomous and carry on autonomous activities and make their own decisions. And it was a very dualistic approach, I would say, because from one point of view, we saw an extreme and amazing unity with everyone were working and now is continuing working as parts, the elements of the big clock, of the big watch. Everyone knew perfectly what they are responsible to. And in addition, they even carry on and came up with much more of new ideas, new activities, new responsibilities that were not in their TOR's terms of reference when we hired them. And it was also why I spoke about duality of this, because on one side you have the unity, but on the other side you have the decentralization. You have the whole group of people who are spread around the world, who work remotely or stayed in the office in Kiev, or stayed in Ukraine, or fled from their homes because of small children, or because their hometowns were affected and were occupied, and so on and so on. But still, they work as one body, as one organism. And I think that the value of the team can't be underestimated at all. And our team showed that they really live with the mission. They really live with the understanding that they are doing it not for someone. Everything that they are doing on their work-related, let's say, area is also about winning in this war, is about saving their lives of their loved ones, and also lives of people from their country. And it's also about the additional meaning and the sense to keep your mental and physical health in the better condition. And I can also relate to it, because when we are doing staff meetings, and you can imagine that staff meeting with 100 employees is quite a challenging thing sometimes, especially when you conduct it in Zoom. But when I hear from our employees that they work almost 20 hours now, and they wake up because they know the meaning of what they do, and they know the purpose why they actually invest their personal time in this, why they want to come up with these solutions. I understand that the work is not some external part of your life, and when you work for nonprofit, you live with the meaning of what you do. Another big lesson was about creative thinking, meaningful partnerships, because when you have the crisis, everything is starting to fall apart, economics starting to fall apart. It's a huge challenge and risk for politics, obviously for humanitarian, it's a humanitarian crisis, so everything seems to fall apart. But at the same time, you consider that when you have a crack in the wall, you can either let it, like walls to fall apart, or you can come up with some solution that will make this wall even stronger. That's where creative thinking and meaningful partnership comes to. In our case, as we were working for more than 20 years, we had lots of partnerships with international big organizations, with big international donors, with big national programs in health and social areas. But the war gave us the understanding that we need to go beyond, that we need to start to invite new partners around the table. We need to go to business, to speak with business. We need to speak with individuals. We need to speak with creative industry to raise not only more funding, but also to raise more assistance, to raise more awareness of what is going on in our country, what help is needed for the most vulnerable groups, what help is needed for the civil society to continue not their survivors, but also continue their existence and their growing. Because our organization believes that civil society is not some marginalized part of the political ecosystem. We believe that civil society is a very equal partner, a watchdog, and the one who actually create the innovation in the society. And I hope that if you will give a look to our website or read a little bit more about our organization, you will also see the example of how we do it in our organization. One of the small but very beautiful example of such meaningful partnership, which is quite new for us, being an HIV service provider, is how we cooperated with a fashion brand, a jewelry brand, and developed a silver dog tags. It's a very similar dog tags like for military personnel or armed forces, where you can see your blood type, your name, your date of birth, but it also have a bit of, like a part of the new mission. And this collaboration was also presented on Venice Biennale as a part of fundraise activities among philanthropy. And our organization obtained more than almost 100,000 euros for the support as a support and as a new funding assistance to help in overcoming humanitarian crisis and delivering the needs to the most vulnerable ones. It's a small example, but still it's very important how, let's say, one dog tag can bring you to Venice Biennale. As you know, it's one of the most famous and important event in the world of art. But also it's very important that we speak about sense of humor. And I was, again, on a personal note, I was quite astonished how actually Ukrainians are laughing through tears, how Ukrainians can come up with the most hilarious jokes when you actually feel that your heart is so broken. But the sense of humor keeps you sane, it keeps you smiling, it keeps you brave, it keeps you strong, and it keeps you extremely united. And this sense of humor is not something new for our nation. It's something that has always been and has very deep roots. But now, especially during this war, we believe that sense of humor is a very, it's just like a small pinch of salt that is important for almost all of the dishes. And it helps us to move on. And when we laugh together, even again, without light, without heat, without water, we find something which help us to keep on moving, which help us to keep on smiling, and which the sense of humor, it also helps us to understand why we want, why we believe and don't have any hesitations in our victory and in the victory of. I also think that another lesson, which was also important for us even before the war, but now, let's say in the crisis time, it's reactivated extremely, is when civil society can provide a very high quality services and very high quality pilot projects, because of course civil society almost never has have money or resources to make something like national wide, right? We take some sector or area of where we can implement our expertise the best, and we show the result. In our case, of course, we are showing the results in health and social areas, and one of such pilots, which I think is very interesting case study, because it has a story before the war, and it has this new sustainable component and transformation with the beginning of the war. Before the war, in 2018, our organization created the first community-based hospital. This hospital was called 100% Tolerance because we wanted it to deliver the highest quality service quality to everyone, to simply everyone. Its doors were open to people from any walks of life. If you were a drug addict, or if you are a sex worker, or if you are a mama of small children, or if you are elder, or if you're a person with disability, and to anyone. Our family doctors, family physicians, and other specialized doctors were ready to provide very high quality services to anyone. And in few years, it became extremely popular. We multiplied these medical centers in different cities of Ukraine, included Rivne, included Chernihiv, Poltava, and we were ready to actually to move on. And it, as a social enterprise, it became self-sustained, and it was ready to, like scale up on a national level. It was also supported by the government of Ukraine. They included us into the list of vaccination sites and yada yada. But then when the war started, we understood that our hospital is not only a hospital, it's also a humanitarian hub. It's also the place where people can get additional services. It's also a place where people can get shelter, where they can come for food, where they can come for water, where they can come to get the humanitarian aid, and many more. It also became the center for the provision of the services to the military personnel who are defending our country, and many, many more. So basically, this example of the pilot is showing how a comprehensive idea can be rethinked, reused, and scaled up. And now there, as I mentioned, our hospitals in Ukraine, they are also used as the provision of medical services to military personnel, but also as a humanitarian hub. Another idea and another example which I can give is about our Syuvin social enterprise in Lviv. So basically, it's a small fabrics which run by women from vulnerable groups, women who were in prison facilities or who are from populations which are affected or vulnerable to HIV. And this social enterprise recently got request from the Ministry of Defense to prepare the first Ukrainian women's military uniform. And on this photo, and I'm sorry, it's not, it's not very obvious, but I was searching for those photos which I had in my availability. The first preparations and the first packs of women's uniforms for women who serves in Ukrainian army, which is developed with their specifics of body specifics and so on, were accepted by the Ministry of Defense, and we received lots of compliments about the high quality of this uniform, and now we will have even more requests from the government. So what I'm trying to say is that when you have a crisis, it's a good opportunity, good opportunity, but still it's an opportunity to deliver what you can deliver the best, the highest quality from civil society, to be presented on the level of the government, on the level of municipal authorities, and be multiplied and scaled up. And the last but not the least, of course, is about the highest value, why we actually do what we do. We do it because people and lives are the highest values. And as we know, again, I'm appealing to a regenerative leadership course here. Life is ever changing and responsive, and it never stands on one point. It always is moving, and sometimes it's moving on the direction where we have to fight, where we have to stand up for ourselves, for our freedom, our sovereignty, our democracy, and our people. And this is the moment where we are not relying on someone, where we have to rely on ourselves. And if you see this table, how the focus is and tone is shifting from sustainability to regenerative, you will see that it's very important to take off the responsibility from the shoulders of organization to the shoulders of personnel. I believe that in the times of crisis, the personal dedication, the personal inspiration, the personal doing is extremely important and never should be underestimated. And unfortunately, I also saw the examples when there was a crisis and organization were staying, not the war, but like the smaller crisis, like economic crisis or problems with program implementations in other countries. And I saw how the organizations without bold leadership and not mission driven, but like gathering of very good experts, of very good specialists, they were standing and expecting for someone to tell them what to do. But in our reality, in a very fast moving world, in the world where we face lots of crises, where we, for instance, Ukrainians face the life and death issues like the war and lots of loss, not only in our infrastructure, but also in lives of our citizens. We understand that all of us and everyone has their mission and has their personal responsibility and personal obligation, I would say, to invest and to make an impact. So I believe that with this focus, we can actually become more proactive, we can become more adaptive, we can value and invest more in our team and do it from the very beginning, not to wait in any crisis to happen. We can also be creative, we can create meaningful partnership and move forward shoulder to shoulder with those who share the same values and the same vision for the future, and keep it with a smile, keep it with a sense of humor. And of course, we can make the change that will last for many, many years and which will help people to make the better quality of their lives. In our case, it was 100% access to treatment, to medical and social services of the most vulnerable groups. But now we understand that it's also the fight for Ukraine, and each and everyone is doing anything possible to bring the victory closer. And at the final note, please click on the link of our film that was prepared during the war and is now showed in different international film festivals. And this is a story about our organization, about our partners, about what we do in different regions of Ukraine. And you can see our Dmytro Sherimbey and speaking about 100% live phenomena. And I hope you like it. And please just give us some warm words. It really means a lot to us. Thank you. And I'm ready to your questions.
Thank you very much, Anastasia, for all this information. Yes, Marilyn, I will send that link. Actually, Anastasia, if you can add that link into the chat here. I'd also like to let you know that I will be sending that link in the email with this recording as well. So you will have access to that link, so don't worry. But does anyone have any questions? I know Marilyn mentioned in the chat that she has a group. She has a session with a group in next week. So I don't know if you want to take advantage of this moment to ask any questions.
Oh, thank you. It's just helped me to get more of a feel from someone in Ukraine that runs programs. Because, you know, we hear about Ukraine in the news, but it's different hearing from someone. So I'm doing a program for coaches. They've asked me to do. It's on the same program I'm delivering in March in Costa Rica on how to be a peaceful presence in a divided world.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Marilyn.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also have a question in the chat from Kelly that says, thank you for all the work you have been doing for the people of Ukraine. What would you say is one of the highest needs there today?
Thank you so much for the question. So there are different types of needs, and it depends on the level of, let's say, on the level of support that can be provided. On the highest, let's say, political and military level, defense level, of course, we need army, we need weapons, we need the protection system that will allow us to cover our sky from the missiles. You know that a few days ago on 13th of November, we had one of the biggest missiles and rockets attacks, bomb shelling of all of the territory of Ukraine, and the targets were civilian infrastructure, civilian housing, and also electrical critical infrastructure. So protection of our skies, as well as installation of cameras that will allow to see and be more reactive to the threats of drones, of missiles, of bomb shelling is very important. And of course, all support that is possible connected to the winter uniforms, heatings, generators, Starlinks, and all of the equipment for our armed force is something that is needed every day permanently. Secondly, when we're, let's say, going to a level of, let's say, civilian support, humanitarian aid, which helps to prepare and our citizens to survive the winter, because now without electricity is extremely complicated to provide the heat, especially for people in well, actually everywhere. I was trying to say that in rural areas, but then I saw that no, it's everywhere, because we received the requests from cities, from rural areas, remote areas, anywhere. People without electricity, without water, without heat are suffering. So any kind of heat cloth that helps to remain the heat in your body and that remains you warm, keep you warm. Regenerators, obviously electrical regenerators or small electric stations that will allow to have alternative for the electricity and which can be used at home, at housing, I mean. And another important thing is all the necessary equipment for electricity supplies for the critical infrastructure, including medical facilities. I don't know if you have seen, but it's a viral photo now, how our surgeons are doing surgeries without electricity in the bomb shelling in Lviv. But it's not the single situation. It's a very pervasive situation when our patients, those who need urgent medical interventions, they stayed without electricity and heat. And it means that anything that can be done to support this kind of facilities with light, with heat, with water is something that is very needed. On the other note, of course, the continuation of evacuation and also support with shelters for people who are affected by the war is something that we are always looking for. And yeah, some basic stuff which helps people to survive, because now we're not speaking even of high level quality of life, right? Because without electricity, heat and warm, we're speaking about the possibility to survive. And maybe not very obvious for international community, but very obvious for me as executive director of a big nonprofit civil society organization, I would say that we face a huge crisis of labor force now. We understand that lots of experts, lots of very high quality personnel fled from Ukraine. And if we don't raise the salary and wages inside of Ukraine because of devaluation of Ukrainian hryvnia, you can compare that devaluation happened almost for 50%, comparing to USD dollar, US dollar. It's something that we all need to consider, how we actually can improve and how we can support the civil society organizations in Ukraine who are doing the work for Ukraine and within Ukraine or remotely, but still, how can we maintain those groups who are actually responsible for administrative operations, operational, financial management, and many, many more. Because obviously we do realize that there is a huge number of volunteers who dedicate their time on volunteer basis and who help to deliver the goods, I mean like humanitarian aid or food or any other vouchers or heating or water or help with evacuation. But there are also people who are helping with all of the operations, IT, administration of the programs running on and continuing in Ukraine. And there's something that has to be done in the improvement and increasing the capacity of Ukrainian civil society. So I hope that I answered your question. These are the highest needs. I obviously can continue because there are lots of specific things such as IT programs for our governmental institutions like G Suits, Google Suits. I mean, there are many needs in cameras, CCTV cameras that will allow to, like to make the monitoring, 24/7 monitoring, medications, and many, many more.
Thank you very much. There are a few comments as well. Thanking you, of course, for the presentation, for your unquestionable excellence and energy in helping civil society. So thank you for everyone who has commented. I think we have time for maybe another question. If anyone has one, feel free to just either type it in the Q&A section or to just let us know. You can just unmute yourself and go ahead.
Can you repeat, please? I didn't hear the question.
Uno de queso y aceitunas negras y el otro de queso. De morrón no hay, ¿no? De morrón.
I think I don't hear the speaker. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mercedes. I'm not able to hear you very clearly either. I'm not sure if it's something to do with the speaker. Maybe in the meantime, we do have a question from Helena saying, I know this is a huge challenging question, but do you have any thoughts on pathways to peace with Russia?
That's a very normal question. I would say that when it was the summit of G20 or we call it G90 on Bali, our president was very clear about the steps that has to be made to even have a slight chance to speak about any negotiations. And those were 10 points, 10 bullets, 10 very bold positions. And this is the position of our country. And I think that in this regard, we share the vision of the president. And we believe that only after, like I will put few words that only when Russia will take out and leave our country and take all of the military troops from all of our legal territories, which are Ukrainian, including Crimea, including our eastern parts, Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast, including paying the reparations, including all of the other bullets which were presented by our president. Any type of, I mean, the negotiations can be considered. But I think that this question is only in, let's say, in the level of responsibility of our president, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and they are very clear about it. So I think it's not a secret, and our position as Ukraine is very clear. I think that as, let's say, on the personal note, I would say that I think that it's too early to speak about any type of peace with Russia, because the big part of the population of Russia Federation, as we see, are supporters of the Putin regime and also of the war in Ukraine, of the killing of our people and occupying our territories. So I believe that this is also the question of transformation of the consciousness of those people who are aggressors and who are terrorists at this moment. That is why, yeah, unless it changes, there is nothing to talk about on the level of human. But I think that on the level of diplomacy and again, politics, our president was very bold about Ukrainian position on the issue which you asked about.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I think due to time, we will leave it here with the questions. Mercedes, if you can email us your question, I will gladly make sure that Anastasia receives it and that she can get back to you to answer that. Just email us at center@upeace.org. And just before signing off, once again, thank you very much, everyone, for joining the session. Anastasia, thank you very much for really taking time and enlightening us on the situation and what has been done, what the challenges still are. And really, I think I just want to mention one thing that you said almost at the beginning, that team is your best investment. So I think that's a lesson that we really want to take away, and really understanding the importance of trusting our team, making sure that we have each other's back, but also really building each other up so that if we do face any obstacles, we can, rely on each other and hopefully have the best outcome. So once again, thank you everyone. And we will be sending this recording to you as well, along with the link to the video that was mentioned. Thank you everyone. And I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great weekend.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.